Welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. So today, I'm going to talk about something I think it's a very interesting topic, and it's something whether you're a newbie or not, practicing witchcraft or paganism, I think in general, I would say, and that's how to define your moral compass. In witchcraft, but in whatever craft you're working. How do you define your moral compass? Because we understand that the more organized religions have rules, commandments, whatever to live by. And most people, who follow that, they adopt that, and that's how they function, right? So what do you do if that's not your practice? And you don't want to adopt necessarily that viewpoint, that ideology. So how do you define? Where do you start? So what I would suggest is to think about what you don't want done to you. Start from the negative. What don't you want done to you? Either from, and remember, we're talking about moral compass within witchcraft. Your personal moral compass might be the same thing, but typically I know for myself, it's different. It can be different. But again, I'm talking from the lens of witchcraft or paganism or whatever, right? So what don't you want done to you? Do you want to be hexed? Are you okay with that? If you did screw up, you did sleep with somebody's husband, you did steal, or you borrow money from somebody and you didn't pay him back. Maybe you didn't do it maliciously. You weren't in a position to pay him back and you thought you could, but you didn't. Are you okay if, they put a hex on you? Because in reverse, that might be what you think to do. You see where I'm going with this? What do you want? What are you okay with being done to you, or what don't you want done to you? And that might sort of guide you on whether you're willing to do that to somebody else. Do you feel if you have done something that you didn't have no business doing? And we all been there. Do you deserve to be hexed for it? Should you be cursed? Should someone put a curse on you and generations after you? Is that okay? Do you, because you did this, egregious thing to them? Something to think about. And only you can really define your moral compass. People could suggest it, but if you don't, take it in and have this agreement within your heart that that's really how you feel, then it won't matter. You have to define it and you have to believe in it. But here's what I would do, and here's sort of what I've done. I did this in my book of Shadows, and a lot of people borrow from the Wiccan path. Because there's something called the 13 goals of being a witch. You can Google that and look that up. I like what that says, so I adopted that and put that in my book of Shadows when I created that. That's something I can go back and look at if I choose to, or if I want to, if I need to, or just to be reminded. But if you're not comfortable doing that, you can create your own rules or guidelines for your own craft. For instance, let's say putting a curse on someone, I am okay with putting cursing is allowed if all other avenues have been explored and there's nothing that can be done in a mundane way to resolve it, or not enough was done in the mundane world to resolve the issue or what this person did to me. If someone intentionally harms my children, I will hex them. Whatever you're thinking, think it out, write it all down. Create your guidelines. And you have to sort of put yourself in these crazy what if scenarios and think about it. If somebody stole my man, not somebody can steal anybody from you, but you get where I'm going with this. If somebody stole my man, do I want to hex her? Do I want to hex him? That sort of thing. And I'm not saying you got to write all these scenarios down, but it gets you thinking on is it okay to hex? Is it ever okay to hex? Are you comfortable with that? once you have your rules, and you might have just one or two rules, so don't be surprised if you don't have a list. It's just more like, yeah, I only hex if I feel like I have to. That's my rule. Okay. When in doubt, if you run into an issue, go ahead. Oh, I got some here. Go ahead and read over your rules so you know when, if this is one of those situations. And now you have your own guideline. There you go. And I will say this. I do think, me personally, I think it's okay to fight fire with fire. When I say that, I do, okay, so I'll give an example. Years ago, I had a family member. I became aware that, they had been attacked. And it was brutal, a brutal attack. We're not just talking about, somebody hit you over the head or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my hair. I cut my ends and it's still a little too frizzy for me. Anyway, I'm looking at myself in this camera and I should be paying attention to what I'm saying. Anyway, so he was brutally attacked. And I went ahead and I did some baneful magic to get back to the people that did that to him. So I didn't feel wrong about doing anything. I didn't see where that was a problem. I didn't think I crossed the line. I legit did not see. To me, it was a called for action. I think I would have felt ashamed if I didn't do anything. So I felt very okay, more than okay with doing it. When I was doing it, it was the first thought to come to my head to do the hex and get it done, and put that energy out there. So what I will say on the same example, which is my next point, if we are treading into this world, because we're talking about moral compass, and typically with witchcraft and things like that, it's always the hex or the curse or not. Is it ever okay? So I made it okay for me. Okay, so I said it was okay, and I did it. So this is some years ago. What I had not done, because I was on raw emotion, which is great for spell work, by the way. You'd be surprised. That's why you need to be careful and develop a moral compass, because when you are hurt and when you're coming from that point or that place, that energy, oh, that's raw energy, and you're putting that into a spell, it's almost always going to work. That's why you need your moral compass for your witchcraft, so you can understand if you even need to do this type of thing, if you need to take it this far. But I digress. I was in raw emotion. I was hurt from my family member. I did not shield myself. Rookie mistake. And I wasn't even that much of a rookie. But it was more of just, it was raw. It was very raw, my reaction and how I went about it. So I didn't even include anything about protecting myself, because you're taking baneful energy. You have to be careful for residual energy. So let me tell you what happened. So I did this that night. It was in the middle of the night. I was like, on autopilot, because I was running around in my seasoning cabinet, getting everything I need, getting candles. It's like all of a sudden I knew exactly what to do. I was just on autopilot, and I was even saying something as I was doing it. And this was just off the cuff. I got everything together. And it worked, by the way, what I did, but that's another story. Anyway, the next day, so I'm in a shopping lot, a shopping center parking lot. Target. Just went in, got groceries. I'm putting my groceries, I'm by myself. My husband was out of town for work. So I'm putting the stuff in the car, and the kids was waiting for me at home. So I ran to the store real quick because I still needed to make dinner. These old couple in their very older car, I see them backing up. I was like, wow, they're coming kind of close. They never stopped backing up. It was a slow motion attack, but literally, if I didn't move out the way, they would have crushed me into my car. But it was like moving like this. So it's more staring like, is this happening? Me, and it's a crowd. It's like about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So most people are seeing this, and people are out and about, and we're all like, wait, this is oh shoot, oh wow, it's happening. She's crashing into the car. Okay, this is happening. So I just moved over, but it was such a freak accident. Just, it was such a weird thing, but it caused issues and money and time and energy. And one would say, oh, well, that was your karma. That was, you paying, or something like that. Or, that's, the law of three or whatever coming back to you, because it was like, there was the process of dealing with the insurance company. There was the actual scene, dealing with that. And then it was for me dealing with my husband, because he's like, well, why'd you park there? I told you should always park further down and all this other stuff. And I'm like, you worrying about the wrong thing, sir. Anyway, it was just craziness. But the point is, I think that happened to me, not because when you do baneful magic, something bad happens to you, because it can happen to you because you can get residual. That I do believe is real, and I don't call it karma. It's just the energy itself. Some of that negativity was still on you, and I didn't properly protect myself and cleanse myself afterwards. That was my problem. Just in case we're down this road, if you want to go down this road, do that. You want to protect yourself, you want to cleanse yourself, because remember, I was doing this for somebody else. Anyway, back on topic. Another thing is, when thinking about a moral compass in witchcraft, be proactive and not reactive. So do your protection spells around your property. And when I mean proper, I mean your home, your car, your workspace, all of that. Do protective magic. So maybe you're not in a position where you constantly have to be reactive because somebody did something to you. That's just, for me, that's just part of the type of magic I practice, cottage witchcraft, because when it comes to that, I mean, I spend a lot of time thinking of protective spells and doing protective type work, whether it's kitchen magic, whether it's just something with sense, whether it's just energetically. It's always, I do a lot of protective magic. Probably because of so many experiences I've had in the past, I learned. So that's probably why I'm so, I harp on protecting yourself energetically. It's very necessary. I've got way too many stories of not understanding that concept, so trust me. Spell your jewelry when you're going out into the world. Spell your jewelry. It's not necessarily against, physical harm. There are other pagans amongst us. There are other witches amongst us. There's other people who practice magic around you. And even if they don't, they know somebody who does, and they use them. I know quite a few people I talk to on a regular basis. They don't practice magic, but if they want to ask me to help them because of a situation, you see, but wear protective jewelry. I'm just saying, you don't know. You can't assume everybody is ignorant of the idea of magical practice and curses and hexes and all that sort of stuff. Even if you're not comfortable wearing, rings, jewelry, whatever, even if it's just, little earrings. By the way, aren't these just adorable? I got this in a pack of other little ear studs at Hot Topic. But wear your jewelry, your glasses if you have to, so you can see what, you can enchant them to say, I just want to see, people's true aura. I want to see their true intent. Do that with your glasses or something like that, or even your garments. Again, proactive, just being a little more proactive instead of reactive, so you don't have to always go into a place where you're thinking about baneful magic and you have to consult your moral compass, so think ahead. And then another thing that I would do is start a ritual, especially if you're somebody who feels like you're being psychically attacked or energetically attacked on a regular basis. There are real energy vampires, and they don't have to practice witchcraft. There are people who just drain you with their drama, with their issues, with their problems, with their sadness, with their this, with their that. Listen, we all go through stuff, but we know there are people who it's like, damn, what, you always going through something? Is it ever happy? Do you ever have a successful day where nothing bad happened to you or someone else, or they claim other people's issues as their own? Energy vampires. And they typically never give anything to the time they spend with you that you can use, and they're often not interested in hearing about what you're going through, positively or negatively. They're just wanting to dump on you with their issues. So I would say practice the ritual of creating what I would like to call a protection bubble. And it's not so much that it makes you invisible or it makes people not want to talk to you. That's not what it is. It's more, and you would have to get a little bit more specific when you're creating this, but it would be something you would do when you walk out in the day, especially if you go into an environment where this is what you're dealing with all the time, energy vampires, and you're a very empathetic person. You would want to do this basically energy shield, create this protective shield around you, see a bubble, and basically it's meant to sort of anybody who is trying to siphon off too much of your energy. So it's something that is permeable, but it'll harden if it's just too much. Like there's a stop point as far as when it comes to your energy. And get in a practice of working that type of magic for yourself, that type of, make it a ritual in the morning. Again, if you're in that type of environment, I'm thinking of people who work with the general public, you work in customer service, you work with people who are complaining when they call you. Customer service, typically people gotta complain. So you still need to be effective. You have to have some level of empathy. I used to do this type of work, so I understand you're being graded on that because they're probably listening on your call. So you have to show empathy. But at the same time, sometimes these people, there's a connection. Occasionally, you might have a connection, and that could be happening throughout the day, especially if you're an empath. You're feeling that connection, and it's draining you. It's draining. So do this bubble, this protective bubble. The ritual is that you do this, at the beginning of your workday or before you walk out the door, so that it's a permeable protection bubble around you, but it stops being permeable before you get drained. And then at that point, there's no more. It's not something, you don't become a cold, heartless person, but enough. You're shielding yourself, because we have to do that. Unfortunately, there are people, and some of us are much more sensitive, but even for those of you not overly sensitive, I say even very sensitive, or even, there are people who just drain you, and you need to just put the bubble up. And you want to create maybe wording or a symbol or some sort of symbol. What's the word? Is it sigil? Sigil? Yeah. You want to create something like that. Maybe you put it on your hand, or your wrist or your hand, or something you draw, lightly, whatever it is, so that it's activated. So when you want, there's sort of like an active word to make the bubble appear for you. So that's something to think about. And then the other thing is, depending on the path, this might even be an issue for you, especially if you're Wiccan. Most people if you're following the Wiccan path, you got the threefold law, so you kind of, it's built in, on what you're going to do and what you're probably not going to do. And if you belong to a coven, you guys probably have your own personal bylaws on what you're going to practice and what you're not going to practice, as far as, having some sort of guideline around morality. So might not be an issue. And then I know there are some ATRs, African traditional religions, who have their own, I don't want to say rules. I don't want to say that, but you guys know what I mean. Within the practice, there are guidelines on how to live, how to function, as far as from a moral perspective. So there's that. And then I know there are people who consider themselves a Christian witch. So I would imagine you're adopting the commandments, the 10 commandments and things like that, to sort of live by, along with doing your witchcraft. So that's already figured out for you. So none of this is not necessarily an issue for you. And that's okay. But if you're still struggling and none of those things are you, or you used to be Wiccan but you don't follow it, you're okay with some of the stuff but not all of it, why don't you look to some of the more Eastern traditions? I'm reading a book right now, Ayurveda for Dummies. Yeah, I know, right? Don't you hate that title, For Dummies? But it's a good book series, the For Dummies line. I'm okay with it because I learned something. But just that entire way of living, I find interesting right now. So I'm reading a book on that. I got that actually from my library. I went to the new library here, or this new to me library. I wanted to check it out. It's a nice building, so I picked that up. I was like, yeah, let me look at that information. So I'm reading that. I know some people look to Buddhism, you know, some of the practices there as far as moral compass and guidelines. And of course, there's the concept of karma. Some people are very comfortable with just going with that, you know, so be it. And I know there's more detailed explanation of how karma works. I'm not getting into all that because that's not really my deal. But, you know, I guess the popular definition of how karma is defined, people want to sort of base their witchcraft on that. Cool, that's great. But look to other paths, look to other ancient societies, and look to see what did they have and adopt those things, write those down in your grimoire or your book of shadows and use them accordingly. And guess what? Sometimes you got to add new guidelines because situations change, our lives change, you know, and we might have to, you know, cross something out and add something different, or, you know, re-examine what we initially put, especially if we're starting off in witchcraft. So you might want to, you might not have the same set of guidelines exactly when you first start out, and then, you know, maybe years later. Or you could start off with a bunch of guidelines and end up with maybe one thing, basically, you know, don't mess with me and I don't mess with you. It could be that simple. That could be your moral compass. Don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. I'm kind of that. It's kind of just boiled down to that for me. If you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. If you mess with me or mine, now I'm going to mess with you. Mine is just one thing, that's it. But if you want to get a little bit more detailed, you can. But hopefully this helps, you know, just if you weren't even thinking about this sort of stuff, because I'm one of those people, I find it intriguing when people bring up a topic I wasn't even thinking about, but now I'm thinking about it like, yeah, what is my moral compass? Am I comfortable really with hexing? Especially if you've never done it. You know, really baneful magic where you want something to happen to somebody. You know, something, you know, or you want to push whatever evil intent they have for you, you want to put that back. So if they meant you dirty, I mean, they wanted to hurt you or end you, you pushing that energy back to them, that's serious. And that's why this is, you know, I sometimes hear, I belong to several groups online, and I see people talk about this sort of stuff. So cavalier. And here's my thing. Have you had success in other magic? Other spells and workings you've done, have you had success? You have? Oh, you good? Okay. They all worked for the most part. Money spells, love spells, you know, road opener spells, whatever it is. Those all seem to work for you. You got the place you wanted, right? You with the guy you kind of like, okay. The job, you were looking for a job, you got the job, okay. You never seem to really go broke, oh, okay. So now you want to do this other thing. So you got success. So somebody like that, I'm gonna say, are you sure? Because you're letting me know you're pretty good. You're good at this. You're good at manifesting. You're good at making things, energy work for you. So if you put this energy here, it's gonna work. Are you sure this is what you want to do? Consult your moral compass. You know, you got to go within to see if this is really what I want to do, because it may have consequences. It doesn't mean something bad's going to happen to you, but are you comfortable with what's going to happen to the person they're going to do this baneful magic on? Does that sit right with you? And it's okay if it doesn't, even if they've done something horrible to you or yours. It's okay if you're not comfortable causing someone else harm, by the way. And that's your moral compass, and that's okay. Be you, live your witchiness, that not somebody else's, not what books say, not with, you know, just do you. So if you're not comfortable with that, don't go down that road. And if you do think something bad's going to happen to you, if you practice baneful magic, don't, because it will, because you're pretty much spelling it so that it does. So don't practice it. You're right to think that, because if you think that, it is going to happen. And that's all I have to say on this subject. So, moral compass and witchcraft. Hopefully this has helped you. Again, I'm Mika, and if you enjoy this video, please like. And if you really like the content, it'd be great if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.